vulture picks at a hand poking out of rubble on a strange and hostile alien planet. The hand grabs the vulture by the throat. Riddick drags himself free from the wreckage and crawls across the barren terrain, only to discover the nearby water is completely undrinkable. He rests briefly before howling creatures in the distance jolt him awake. Through his goggles, he spots hyena-like predators moving toward him across the open ground. He backs into the water and sinks below the surface, going completely still until the creatures lose patience and move on. Once clear, he hauls himself out and faces the most painful immediate task, forcing his foot between two rocks and snapping his shattered leg back into alignment. The sound of his pain carries far enough to draw the hyenas toward the cave he retreats to. Deep inside, a water creature erupts from a pool, kills the lead hyena, and scatters the rest in terror. When Riddick turns around, the same creature is already lunging for him. He fights it off. He pushes through the desert, sleeping when he can, pulling broken stones over himself for cover. While drifting in and out of sleep, his mind drifts back to how he ended up stranded here. As Lord Marshal of the Necromonger fleet, he had never been comfortable with the title or the role. One night in his quarters, a woman approached him, and while his attention wandered, she drove a blade into his back. He killed her before she could finish the job. Siberius arrived and asked who sent her. Riddick told him it could have been anyone. The blood soaking his chair made the point clearly enough. Siberius taunted him about having gone soft. Riddick pressed a blade to the man's throat until Siberius revealed the location of Furia, Riddick's home world, a map tattooed on Siberius's own hand. They struck a deal. Siberius wanted transcendence. Riddick wanted passage home. Siberius provided a ship. The crew dropped Riddick on a hostile, unnamed planet and tried to kill him instead. The scarred man commanding the attack emptied his weapons into the rock beneath Riddick's feet and sent him plunging down into the valley below, leaving him for dead. Stranded and working from nothing, Riddick begins to adapt methodically. He traps a baby hyena and feeds it carefully from a cage, watching how the animal reacts to different stimuli. He climbs a nearby mountain range and spots a distant civilization on the other side of the ridge. Before he can push toward it, he needs to deal with the planet's most dangerous predator. He harvests venom from a small serpent, tests a dose on the caged hyena first, observes how it reacts, then injects the same amount into himself to begin building resistance. Prepared as he can be, he faces the full-grown serpent in open ground. It bites him in the leg. He cuts off its head. While watching the young animal recover from its dose, a massive serpent erupts from the water directly behind him and strikes. He grabs his animal, dives under the enormous creature, and slices it open from below. It then proceeds to devour its own spilled entrails, a confusing outcome even for Riddick. He walks away. Time passes, weeks, possibly longer. He crosses the desert with a fully grown hyena running freely at his side, the animal fetching a ball he throws with the devotion of a loyal dog. He begins coming across the scattered bones and remains of other creatures. Eventually, he crests a ridge and spots an abandoned facility in the distance. He enters, takes supplies, eats beside his companion, and settles into wait. A massive rainstorm is building far out on the horizon. When he re-enters the facility, he is automatically scanned, and his bounty flags immediately. Two ships soon come down to collect him, dead or alive. The first belongs to a mercenary crew, led by a man named Santana. The second carries Commander Boss Johns and his people, including a sharp and capable soldier named Dahl. Neither team is pleased to find the other already there. Santana wants the full bounty entirely for himself. John says his crew will simply observe. Behind both of them, Riddick is already laying traps. One of Santana's men finds an object on the ground, is explicitly warned not to pick it up, and picks it up anyway. Nothing happens, and he visibly relaxes. He takes a step forward, and his leg is caught in a foothold trap. He takes one more step and does not survive it. By morning, three are dead, and no one on either team has actually seen Riddick. Santana approaches Johns about combining their efforts. Johns agrees, but dictates the terms. He leads the operation, Dahl is his second in command, and Riddick must be brought in alive. Santana accepts through clenched teeth. Johns fires a barium-laced tracking round into Riddick's hyena, so the animal can be followed to its owner. The crew tracks the signal into a cave system and discovers what appears to be a hidden camp. As they inspect it, a figure appears standing behind them, and they immediately open fire. Johns realizes too late that they just killed one of Santana's own missing crew members. The hyena attacks briefly and then vanishes. Someone voices the obvious question. If Riddick is not here, then where exactly is he? He is at the ship. While Dahl is occupied cleaning herself, Riddick's hand reaches from the shadows directly into her supply kit and quietly takes what he needs. He is already sitting on top of the vessel. Using a small mirror, he observes the interior through the open hatch without being seen. He watches Santana into the cargo hold alone and monitors the situation from the vents above him until Dahl walks in and disrupts the dynamic entirely. A tense standoff follows among the crew until Johns arrives and tells everyone firmly to lower their weapons before they finish Riddick's work on his behalf. Later, a crew member spots an open sky window and climbs up to investigate. Riddick takes him without a sound. When the man is found missing, Johns locks the entire facility down and orders everyone to hold the outer perimeter. Riddick now has the leverage he needs to open negotiations. He broadcasts his voice through one of the dead hunter's communication devices. Johns tells his crew to hold their positions. Riddick steps out of the darkness and walks toward them calmly. Weapons go down across the board. Johns asks what he wants. Riddick says he wants answers, specifically what happened on this planet 10 years ago. Then he names his real terms. In less than 24 hours, the rains will arrive and nothing on this planet's surface will survive them. He has no interest in continuing to kill people one by one. He wants one of the two ships. When the rain touches the station, he either gets the ship without bloodshed or the killing starts again. His preference is the first option. As he turns to leave, Dahl fires a tranquilizer into him. Then a second dart. A third. Riddick goes down at last. Santana immediately shoots the hyena. Johns hits Santana hard and takes Riddick into custody. In chains, Johns interrogates Riddick intensely about his son who disappeared on this planet a decade earlier. Riddick gives him almost nothing useful. He informs Santana calmly and directly that the moment the chains come off, Santana will be dead within 5 seconds using the machete hanging from Santana's own belt. The rains begin. Johns announces that Riddick's time is up and transfers custody to Santana. Before Santana can act, the facility's monitoring equipment erupts with alerts. Everyone runs outside to see a spotlight sweep across the ground and reveal enormous serpents erupting from below the surface in every direction. One punches directly through the facility wall and drags a crew member away in an instant. The attack overwhelms the compound from all sides simultaneously. Still in his chains, Riddick laughs and announces calmly that in 60 seconds the restraints come off. Johns agrees to the terms on the spot. Santana presses a blade to Riddick's throat and flatly refuses to honor the deal. Dahl moves to intervene and is knocked back. Santana is within a breath of ending it when the blade is kicked up into the ceiling above him and he is slammed into a cabinet heart. When he staggers back to his feet, the blade drops. Riddick drives it straight through Santana's skull and steps into the lockbox exactly as he promised. The deal stands. The group fans out and fights through the serpents to reach the ships. Vargas is bitten by a smaller creature and dies from the venom before anything can be done. They take the hovering motorbikes and race toward a set of power nodes that must be cleared before departure is possible. Unarmed, Riddick kills serpents using the engine flames from his own bike. While digging up the nodes, he tells Johns quietly that his son had developed a severe morphine addiction. That is why the boy never came home. Then Diaz sabotages one of the bikes and attacks both of them. He is no match for Riddick, but manages to destroy the last functional bike as he goes down, leaving them stranded with no choice but to continue on foot. They walk the remaining distance fighting serpents with whatever they have left. Riddick is bitten and seriously wounded. Johns throws an explosive that clears the nearest cluster of creatures, then makes a decision. He turns around, walks back toward the ships alone, and tells his crew to prepare for immediate departure, leaving Riddick behind. Riddick presses heated stones from the blast against his wound to seal it and starts running, climbing and fighting through every creature still between him and any possible way off the surface. It begins to look very much like the end. Then weapons fire rains down from the sky and destroys everything around him. Johns turned the ship around and came back. They pull Riddick aboard, break atmosphere ahead of the approaching storm, and escape together. The two part ways in orbit with minimal conversation. Riddick returns to the Necromonger fleet and stands before the scarred man directly. He tells him that Siberius never intended the betrayal. This man acted entirely alone, because Riddick is not and never will be a believer. Riddick kills him without ceremony. He asks the woman standing nearby whether Siberius is alive or dead. She tells him Siberius achieved exactly what he always wanted, transcendence. Riddick turns away and walks off into whatever